Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ follower's perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind.
There were undoubtedly many nice slaveholders in the South.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth coming back at you with a new report. I pray you all are doing well. Shalom, family. In today's report, we're going to chop it up on this issue and the point that I've made with many people for years. And that point is that slavery never ended. It was updated and expanded. In today's report, we're going to look at a recent news report regarding these two nice gentlemen, what kind of business they are running, how they're running their business, and so to not keep you in suspense, these two gentlemen are running agricultural businesses, farming. They literally are running farms. In this report, they're focusing in on their watermelon farms. Okay? So we're going to watch a short video. It's about 3 minutes long. I'm not going to interrupt it. And we're going to see if you can pick out the truth from this video. And then if not, we're going to go back over the video and information, and we're going to chop it up on there and show you what the video is really about and how, as I've said many times, slavery in the U.S. has never ended. It only was updated and expanded. All right, here we go, family. We're going to jump right into this video without further ado. And hopefully you will see the face of Hasatan in this video. Okay? And if you don't, I'm going to help you see the face of Hasatan, to many of you of Satan, okay, in this video. All right, so let's move forward. All right, let's get our video going here. Give me just a moment, and we are going to jump right in. All right, here's our video.
It's 7:30 a.m. in humid North Florida, the beginning of a long day on a large farm, where hired workers are in the middle of harvesting roughly 2.2 million watermelon, about 32 million pounds worth, over the course of about 6 weeks, with more than 150 people working to harvest the watermelon. I asked farm owner Trevor Bass this question.
How many U.S. citizens pick crops on your farm?
None.
Zero.
Actually, on this day, there is one U.S. citizen, me. I requested a chance to work for one day on this farm to learn more about why so many farmers have such a difficult time getting Americans to work on their farms.
Okay, so this watermelon is ripe, it's ready. We turn it over so the yellow part is on top, so then the people who pick it up No, it's ready because they see the yellow part on top.
Everyone I'm working with here is from Mexico, all part of the U.S. government's guest worker program known as H-2A. American farmers can hire foreign nationals under the H-2A program as long as they follow strict provisions, which include only hiring them after trying to employ Americans first, which this farm owner did, and got no takers.
The idea is we have this chain here, and we're going to be taking these watermelons, putting them on this bus, and we're going to be doing it for hours straight.
Dustin Blank is a farmer and also represents other farms when selling finished product to stores.
I own 2 farming operations.
And you represent how many farms?
Represent over 30.
And how many U.S. citizens do you know of who work on any of those farms?
Short of management, 0.
Under H-2A, guest workers can't get paid less than Americans. Florida's minimum H-2A salary is $14.33 an hour. And at this farm, the Mexicans are permitted to work for as many hours as they want, with extra bonuses for the amount of work done. They can easily make more than $1,000 a week. They are subject to income tax. Edgar Hernandez is a husband and father who sends all his money home to his family. I ask him why he doesn't think there are any Americans harvesting with him.
Es pesado.
It's heavy, he says. The work is hard. These farm owners don't disagree with that assessment. Americans have other choices and just don't want to do this, they say.
I would say this work on a scale from 1 to 10 would be out of a 9. I mean, it's about as hard as it gets.
There are about 18,000 pounds of watermelon on each of these buses. In addition to these being heavy, it's extremely monotonous.
Both these men describe themselves as politically conservative. However, they say this government program is not only a necessity, but should have an application process that is faster and more flexible.
Yes, we don't need to open the borders and let everyone across, but these guys are coming here for a reason. They're coming here for serious work to try to support their families in Mexico or wherever they've come from. They're not here to play. I mean, it's very obvious. Look behind us.
Okay, family. We are going to go through this video.
As long as this page doesn't say expired.
We're going to go through this video because my question is, did you see this? Did you see it? Did you see that slavery has never ended? Did you see that this report only explained and described slavery 2.0? The slavery that was expanded and updated. No? Okay. So let's go back through this video here. And we're gonna chop it up on the video. And I'm gonna break it down to you. I'm gonna break it down to you bit by bit so you can be fully aware if you did not see that slavery never ended. Okay? All right. Here we go. Let's go through this one more time. But this time, I'm going to help you see it. All right. Here we go.
It's 7:30 a.m. in humid North Florida, the beginning of a long day. On a large farm, where hired workers are in the middle of harvesting roughly 2.2 million watermelon, about 32 million pounds worth, over the course of about 6 weeks, with more than 150 people working to harvest the watermelon.
Looks like Satan is mad because we are exposing the truth at the YouTube offices. If we have further technical difficulties, we will rebroadcast this report, but we're going to try to push through. Satan does not want this truth to be exposed, okay? So we're going to back it up just a little bit, okay? And we're going to try to move forward. Again, If we have further significant technical difficulties with our feed, we will rebroadcast this report. All right, here we go.
I requested a chance to work for one day on this farm to learn more about why so many farmers have such a difficult time getting Americans to work on their farms.
Okay, so this watermelon is ripe, it's ready. We turn it over so the yellow part is on top, so then the people who pick it up know it's ready because they see the yellow part on top.
Everyone I'm working with here is from Mexico, all part of the U.S. government's guest worker program known as H-2A. American farmers can hire foreign nationals under the H-2A program as long as they follow strict provisions, which include only hiring them after trying to employ Americans first.
Okay, stop right there. The so-called law is that these farmers are supposed to try to hire Americans first. And if no Americans want these jobs or want to do these jobs, then they're allowed to hire immigrants from Mexico or wherever to fill these positions, do this work, and operate their business. Some of you are like, okay, what's the problem? The problem is this. What they don't fully explain to you is why Americans don't want to do these jobs. I'm going to continue and then I'm going to explain it to you, okay?
Which this farm owner did and got no takers.
The idea is we have this chain here, and we're going to be taking these watermelons, putting them on this bus, and we're going to be doing it for hours straight.
Dustin Blank is a farmer and also represents other farms when selling finished product to stores.
I own 2 farming operations.
And you represent how many farms?
Over 30.
And how many U.S. citizens do you know of who work on any of those farms?
Short of management, 0.
Under H-2A, guest workers can't get paid less than Americans. Florida's minimum H-2A salary is $14.33 an hour. And at this farm, the Mexicans are permitted to work for as many hours as they want, with extra bonuses for the amount of work done.
Did you hear that, family? These workers are making 14 some odd dollars an hour to do this job. Okay? That's what they're making. Would you do this job, this very hard, labor-intensive job, for $14.50, $14.60 an hour? No. This is an extremely hard, labor-intensive, working in the fields in the hot sun, slaving away job. So you have to ask yourself, how much would somebody, an employer, or these guys have to pay you, an American, to do this job? How much an hour would they have to pay you? These guys are making $14.50, $14.60 something an hour. So would you do it for $20 an hour? No? How about $25 an hour? I mean, how much would they have to pay you? Let's say if they were paying $30 an hour, would you do it? At $30 an hour, as an American citizen, I would seriously consider, if I wasn't able to do anything else to make $30 an hour as a career or as for my job, and I could do this for $30 an hour, I would seriously consider it. That's the starting range that I would be like, I can, if I got no other options and I can make $30 an hour doing this for 6 weeks, okay, I can stack up some serious money, right? $30 an hour, okay. Gonna be hot, your back gonna be sore, you know, but I'm making $30 an hour, okay, right? Or some others will say a little bit more. I say around between 25, 30. And for me personally, I would be around $30 an hour. It's a simple, easy job as far as what you have to do. It's basically, you ain't gotta really do much thinking about it. Just physical work in the elements. Rain, burning hot, 100-degree weather, whatever it is. Right? $30 an hour. But they're not paying $30 an hour. They're paying $14.60 an hour to these gentlemen from Mexico that they're bussing in. At the beginning of the video, they literally have bus fulls of these guys. They're sending buses down to the border, picking up these gentlemen from Mexico or wherever, driving them up to their farms, and they're doing this work every day for $14.60 something an hour. So that's the first part of the answer as to why no American citizens will do this job or these types of jobs for that amount of pay. Basically minimum wage or a couple dollars above minimum wage. It's not enough money. That's number one. Number two, if you live here in America as an American citizen and you're making $14.60 an hour or basically minimum wage, you already know that that's not enough money for you to live here in America, pretty much anywhere. Even here in this part, whatever part of Florida they're in, you won't be able to afford a basic living in America. In fact, you would actually still, even in this part of Florida, you will still qualify for various assistance programs being paid that amount. I said you would still qualify for various assistance programs because you're not making enough money to live in America. You probably qualify for food stamps and child care, whatever, right? The point is, the $14.60 that they're paying, that they're offering, is not enough for an American citizen to live on here in America. In addition, point number 3, you heard in the video, or either already or you will hear here shortly, that these gentlemen from Mexico, they're making $14.60 an hour because in Mexico, they struggle to find jobs that pay this amount, $14.60 or whatever. There's not too many jobs that pay that much in Mexico. So for them to come here and make that amount of money here in the US, they're like, oh, absolutely, yes. And to double down on that, most of these guys are sending the majority of the money that they're making back home. They're wiring it back home to their families in Mexico. Why, you ask? Because $14.60 an hour money made here in the US is pretty much worth at least double that amount in Mexico. The US dollar, US currency has a higher value in Mexico. than it does here in the U.S. The cost of living in Mexico is significantly less or cheaper, so that the money they send home goes further, does more. It's almost like double. It's almost as if they're making $30 an hour with this money, but in Mexico. Do you see that? Like I said, but if you're a U.S. citizen and you live here in the U.S., this $14 an hour doesn't go far enough. You can't afford a basic living here in America. But in Mexico, oh, you're getting over well with this exact same money. That's why these gentlemen are okay just getting paid $14.60 an hour. And why a lot of U.S. citizens are like, nah, I ain't doing that for less than $15 an hour. Y'all crazy. That's not enough money. That's hard labor. I can't live off of that. Y'all got to bump that pay up for U.S. citizens up to around maybe 30 or more an hour. Then maybe, I might go ahead and do that. Do you see that? That's what this report is purposely leaving out. This report is a propaganda piece to try to justify and make the devils that you saw at the very beginning of this report here at One Brothas Mind. They're trying to make them look good and justify, well, hey, nobody wants to do the job, so hey, these guys got to operate their business. These are good men. No. U.S. companies have to pay a fair wage for U.S. workers. And these companies, as well as thousands of them across the U.S., refuse to pay U.S. people and workers a fair U.S. wage. So they purposely want to hire people from outside the U.S. that will do these jobs and make this, as far as the U.S. goes, do these minimum wage or slave wage jobs, because they can then take that money back to their home, and that money is worth double, sometimes almost triple what it's worth here in the U.S. because the economy from wherever they are from, wherever their families live, the cost of living is so much cheaper. The money goes much further. Do you see that? They left that out in this report. Now, as U.S. citizens, we're doing all this hard work for $14.60 something an hour. They working like slaves. They're not paid enough. Now, these men, like I said, most of them are sending their money home to their families. They're not trying to have and survive with a standard living here in the U.S. They're just living with bare minimum here in the U.S. while they do this job, because they want to send the majority of their money back home where it buys significantly more. So 6 weeks is over. Guess what? They go right back home. They basically made almost a half a year or year's salary in just 6 weeks back home in Mexico. Once they go home and they catch up with their money, they can sit back for a while. Do you see that? Okay. But if they tried to live, if their families were here in the U.S., they would be in sheer poverty. They wouldn't be able to afford to live. They would still qualify for most all of the assistance programs because they would be in utter poverty as a U.S. citizen. Do you see that? Because the cost of living here in the U.S. is far higher. Again, slavery never ended. It was just updated and expanded. Okay? All right, so let's continue with a little more of this propaganda piece. Here we go.
They can easily make more than $1,000 a week. They are subject to income tax.
$1,000 a week here in the U.S. is nothing. That's poverty. In Mexico, it's worth maybe $2,000, maybe $3,000. Do you see the difference? They are also, as they said, are paying income tax. But they're not worried about that small amount of income tax that's being taken out. They're worried about what's left, the bulk. That's their money that they can use and send home. Now, are these gentlemen going to, since they're paying income tax, are these workers going to be able to, reap the tax benefits? No, they don't live here in the U.S. They're not going to retire here. They're not going to collect Social Security or anything like that from paying taxes here in the U.S. So that's point number 4. For the U.S., it's essentially free tax money collected from people that are never going to collect from the tax money, like as far as a retirement. They're never going to file for retirement here in the U.S. They're never going to. So it's just, the U.S. is just picking up millions of dollars in free tax money that they never have to pay back or use to help support these non-citizens because they don't live here. Okay? So that's another benefit to the U.S. Okay? Which is why they put these things in place. We're going to get into that even more, but let's continue.
Edgar Hernandez is a husband and father who sends all his money home to his family. I ask him why he doesn't think there are any Americans harvesting with him.
Es pesado.
It's heavy, he says. The work is hard. These farm owners don't disagree with that assessment. Americans have other choices and just don't want to do this, they say.
Americans has other choices and don't want to do this. That's why Americans don't want to do it? No. They are paying a slave wage. They are offering literally slave wages to Americans. That's why Americans don't want to do this work. Again, if they started offering, say, $30 an hour to do this work, a whole gang of Americans will come out and take these jobs. Do you see that? Let's continue.
I would say this work on a scale from 1 to 10 would be at a 9. I mean, it's about as hard as it.
Look at the smirk on these guys' face. You're literally looking at the face of Satan. That's why they have a smirk on their face. They know what they are doing. They also know that the U.S. government supports what they're doing and is helping them with what they're doing. They're basically taking advantage of human beings. Okay? They're capitalizing on other human beings. They're not paying a fair wage for our country here in the U.S. They're not. And they know it. And they're doing it on purpose because that's what maximizes their profits. Paying slave wages. And again, U.S. workers won't do it because they're paying slave wages. But the U.S. government is backing them all the way because the U.S. government is getting free money via taxes out of the deal also. Now, many of you listening to this report are going, well, okay, okay, we see what's going on here. What's the big problem? If you ain't seen it by now, something wrong with you. But these are jobs. These are jobs on American soil. They should be being paid and filled by Americans. Every company, business, every employer here in America should be required to pay fair wages for the jobs here in America. This goes for whether it's watermelon harvesting or whatever agricultural jobs that are in need, that are, you need employees for, construction, whatever, all the hard labor jobs. They have to be paying. That's why many of you saw recent reports out of Florida where DeSantis is passing these crazy laws, and a lot of the illegal immigrants are leaving Florida, whereas they were there previously doing all of the construction work. Why was that happening? Because they were paying the illegal immigrants $14 an hour, maybe $18 an hour to do these hard construction jobs, where they previously were paying Americans $25, $30 an hour or more to do those jobs. They figured out and set up this satanic slavery hustle, employing people that are non-U.S. citizens and paying them half, at the very least, of what they should be paying to do those jobs. And now Satan done passed these crazy laws, and now you're seeing videos of completely empty job sites in Florida. They're getting the hell out of there. Your boy DeSantis overplayed his card. Now they're trying to beg people, the non-U.S. citizens or illegal immigrants, please stay. They'll come back, y'all. We just playing. We're not going to enforce this law. We need y'all. Yeah, the slaves is leaving because DeSantis passed laws saying that they would arrest and deport the non-U.S. citizens or illegal immigrants. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be sent back home because they can't find jobs that pay $15 an hour back home. But they can find them here. They can pick watermelons up for that amount of money and then send that money home. And that money is worth 2, maybe 3 times as much back home where they come from. But if you're going to arrest us, oh no, we out. We're going to the other states and go pick some watermelons or do construction where they're not going to arrest us. Do you see that? Let's continue.
Yes.
There are about 18,000 pounds of watermelon on each of these buses. In addition to these being heavy, it's extremely monotonous.
Both these men describe themselves as politically conservative. However, they say this government program is not only a necessity, but should have an application process that is faster and more flexible.
It's not a necessity. What is or should be legally required is that companies, employers, pay a fair American or U.S. living wage. In this case, it should be at least $30 an hour. Okay? But because they don't put the trickeration into it, and I'm going to break that down, they're getting away with it. Because some of you are saying, well, ain't it illegal for employers and companies to hire non-U.S. citizens and illegal immigrants? Yes. There's a law that says no employer, no business, no company can hire illegal immigrants here in the U.S., non-citizens. Just cut and dry, right? But I'm going to show you the face of Satan and how Satan puts in the trickeration to bypass that law. As you heard earlier in this report, it's called H2 something. I'm going to show it to you here in a moment. I'm going to show you the trickeration they put in. Here we go. We're almost done.
Yes, we don't need to open the borders and let everyone across, but these guys are coming here for a reason.
They're coming here to be our slaves because they can't make this much money back where they come from. And we're perfectly happy with them being our slaves because it increases our profits. And the government is perfectly happy because the government is getting free tax money. So the government and the employers like us, slave masters like us, we're all getting wealthy, exploiting these slaves.
Coming here for serious work to try to support their families in Mexico or wherever they've come from. They're not here to play. It's very obvious. Look behind us.
All right. There you have it on that, family. Do you see the face of Satan? These are good guys.
There were undoubtedly many nice slaveholders in the South.
These are businessmen. What's wrong? Yeah, whatever. All right, here we go. Let's continue, family. So, again, did you see the face of Satan? Did you see the face of white supremacy here in America? Did you see it? All right. So now let me give you the background information on why what you just saw is happening. And it's happening even though there's a law that makes it illegal. There's trickerations and amendments and loopholes put into the law that allows them to so-called legally get away with doing this. Slavery. Again, slavery never ended. It only was updated. All right. So we're going to start here with the 13th Amendment. It's on your screen. And before we start, make sure you smash the like button, share this video on all your social media with all your peoples, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. All right. Okay. We're going to start here with the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist. The 13th Amendment made slavery in the U.S. illegal. And the federal government here in the U.S. enforces this law. This is the base law. After the Civil War or before the Civil War, when this law was put into place, this is what ultimately freed all of the slaves. So it made the slave masters in the South, they freaked out. Literally, this law and the Emancipation Proclamation, these things sent the slave masters in the South. They was on fire because this was their business, slavery, treating human beings like animals, capitalizing on other human beings, taking advantage of other human beings, forcing slave labor. Okay? But in the 13th Amendment, you see here, it says, here's the first loophole. Slavery is abolished and illegal except as punishment for a crime. So if you're in America and you get convicted of a crime after the 13th Amendment was put in, you now once again, as a prisoner, as a been convicted, you now once again are a slave. You see that? And if you've been convicted of a crime, now being a slave all over again, you're now actually property of the U.S. government, and you're the property of whatever state you received your criminal conviction in. Right? Here we go. Then, after this law was passed, again, the South had lost the Civil War. This law has been put into place. But the slave masters, they're trying to come up with every kind of which way to get their slaves back, to keep their business model of slavery, to keep it going. So, what do? I tell you all the time. They come up with this "I'm white and I say so" amendment or trickeration or law to put in magically more loopholes into the 13th Amendment, right? I already showed you one. If you get arrested, convicted, you're now a slave and property again. Here, I'm going to show you the next one. So right after the 13th Amendment, shortly thereafter, there were laws that the states, especially a lot of the southern states, there were laws, new laws, this white and I'm say so laws that they passed to use to start arresting and convicting the newly freed slaves, the so-called black people, right? Here's one of them on your screen. They came up and made a vagrancy law or loitering laws, okay? So, get the picture. You and your family are newly freed slaves. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to work? What kind of job do you got? You got nothing. They were supposed to give us 40 acres of mule, but they gave us nothing. So you got a choice to make. You can either, the slave master that you used to work for, you could go back and agree to work for that same slave master and do the exact same slave jobs and be treated exactly the same way that you was as a slave. You can go agree to that again. Because what other job options do you have? Where else are you going to live? Or you can say, no, I'm not doing it. Hell no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to figure out something else. We going to figure out something else. We're not going back to the plantation. Okay, so now you out here. You moving around the area, trying to find, other ways to make money, trying to find new jobs. Most of the slave masters, yeah, they're hiring, but to do the exact same thing that you was doing as a slave. So you moving around trying to figure out what you're going to do, you and your family, right? And then the state passes this vagrancy law. Well, what is vagrancy? The act or practice of wandering about from place to place. Well, don't you got to do that to try to find a new job? If you just been freed as a slave, don't you got to walk around? You don't have no transportation. You got no money, no resources. Don't you got to move around to try to find some other job? So if you out walking west, seeing what you can find as far as new job options, the sheriffs and slave catcher could just pull up on you. Any white person could just pull up on you and say, you're under arrest. You say, well, for what? Vagrancy. You're a vagrant. No, I'm not. I'm going to look for jobs. No, you're a vagrant. Do you have a job? No, but I'm out looking for work. You're a vagrant. Clink, clink. Get in this truck. Now you're taken to jail, into court, and convicted as a vagrant. Do you see Satan and how he operates as far as these I'm white now say so laws of vagrancy and loitering? Again, to go further, vagrancy is the crime of wandering about without employment or identifiable means of support. Every recently freed slave fit this satanic law. Every one of them that chose not to return to the same plantations they were just freed from. So being free in the U.S. was a criminal offense for freed slaves. Do you see that? Let's continue. So basically, what I'm describing is these were new laws that all states, especially the southern states, they immediately enacted these new white not say so laws. Vagrancy, loitering. It was against the law to ride the rails or catch rides on the trains that were moving, through multiple states, because a lot of the free slaves were like, we would just jump on the train and just ride it for a while and get in another state to do what? Try to find a new job. Actually changing jobs was a crime. Talking too loudly in public was a crime. All of these they were arresting newly freed slaves for. And once they arrest them, they would quickly convict them and then start forcing them as now prisoners to work the chain gangs like you see on the top of your screen or whatever. Even up to today into the convict leasing programs. It's the same hustle. It's slavery. Okay? They were called peonage laws. Definitely look that up. Okay? So, again, do you see the trickeration? The 13th Amendment says slavery is over. And then on the side they go, well, except if we arrest you for committing a crime. So let's just make it, whatever y'all doing, we're going to make that a crime. That's what they did. Whoosh. Well, you say, how can they do that? Because I'm white and I say so. Do you see that? Okay. So, yeah. Again, even beyond that trickeration, they also passed laws in regards to the Civil Rights Act of 1866 in regards to contracts, right? They had to pass this trickeration too. And within this Civil Rights Act, they made it or set it up to make and enforce contracts and give every U.S. citizen the ability to sue, be parties, give evidence, and have full equal benefit to all laws and proceedings in regards to contracts. Now, focusing on the second yellow paragraph. This was for the purposes of this section. The term make and enforce contracts includes making, performance, modification, and termination of contracts and the employment of all benefits, privilege, terms, and conditions of the contractual relationship. Some of you are going, okay, what's that got to do with this? This is the trickeration laws, the white and say-so laws that they put in that allows prisons to lease out the property, the slaves, the so-called black people that they have arrested and convicted for vagrancy. This contract laws is what legalizes the prisons to go back and take their prisoners, the property that they now have just arrested, and go back to the slave masters on the plantations and say, hey, we got some workers for you. And the slave masters go, oh, you say you do? Well, isn't this special? Yeah, I'll take them. We make a contract. We make an agreement. Your property will work my plantation for this amount of money. I'll pay you this amount of money to the prisons for those prisoners, those slaves, to work my property. It's just slavery all over again. Again, slavery never ended. So this is what you saw happening as soon as they passed the 13th Amendment and the peonage laws and these contract laws. They reinstituted legalized slavery. So if any recently freed so-called black person was found out just walking around trying to move, trying to go somewhere to find a job, a different job or better opportunities, they're literally breaking the new I'm white and I say so laws. So they're chasing them down and arresting them, throwing them in jail, which they're being convicted of vagrancy and the other peonage laws. And now they're being leased out as workers, as slaves. That's the whole thing. If you convicted of a crime, you're a criminal. Criminals now are slaves and also now are property of the prisons. This 13th Amendment law still is on the books and in play to this very day. It's called the Convict Leasing Program. And oh, by the way, there's a bunch of other things that so-called people who have been convicted of crimes that's stripped from them, that's taken away from them, like their right to revoke. There's other reasons why they added that. Well, if you're a criminal, you shouldn't be able to vote. That's what most of you are saying. Well, wait a minute. You got to understand, when the so-called black people were freed from slavery, in most southern states, black people outnumbered the white residents in that state. And instantly being freed, they now had the right to vote. So when the elections were going to come around, they could just walk up and vote so-called black people in as the governors and the mayors, and all the elected officials overnight could be just voted in, and black people could just take over that whole state because there was more black people than white people in the state. So they had to institute these peonage laws and start arresting and criminally convicting all these newly freed slaves that were trying to move around to find better jobs and better opportunities and new lives, they had to arrest all these people and make up "I'm white and I say so" laws and convict them. Because not only did it make them slaves and property all over again, but it also stripped them of their right to vote. So it reduced the numbers of so-called black people that actually had their right to vote in the elections in these southern states. Like I said, many of them, the number of black people or freed slaves outnumbered the white people at the time. That's another reason why many of you are saying, well, that's why they were, the white residents, the Klan or whoever, they were giving the freed black people hell for trying to go to the voting office. Exactly. They were literally chasing people down and deleting them, burning their houses down, threatening their families. Every possible thing they could possibly do to stop so-called black people from voting, because they knew if all the black people voted, because it was more black people than it was white people, the elections would instantly turn over and all the black people will have the legal power in that state, in those counties and cities, and all those elections. So they got to do everything they can possibly do to stop black people from voting. They can't vote if they're arrested, in jail. Yeah, y'all starting to see it, right? So it's been a rigged system from the beginning. As soon as the concept I need y'all to understand is, as soon as there's a law that's passed that actually may help and be a positive for so-called black people in the U.S., right after that law is passed, they start making up new "I'm white and I say so" modifications and loopholes to that law, like I just showed you, that essentially cancels the law and its positive benefits for so-called black people. It removes them, the triggerations they put in. They've been doing it all throughout U.S. history. Okay? So now that you understand that, looking at this the video that we covered regarding the watermelon harvesting, again, first, as slaves, they used us, so-called black people. We were their free and cheap labor source. Yeah, they provided so-called shelter, food, and clothing. That's a price of doing business, a cost of doing business. Which that same cost back during slavery is about minimum wage approximately today. So that's why those two fine white gentlemen have no problem, and they had a little smirk on their face with paying $14.60 something an hour. That's expected cost of doing business, of being a slave master. Ain't nothing changed. We don't have a problem paying that, because paying that allows us to rake in all the real profits and become wealthy and stay wealthy, build generational wealth, because we're taking advantage of these other human beings here. They don't really know it. They would if they actually tried to stay and live here in the U.S. But the additional trickeration is, in 6 weeks, they're going back home. They're going back to catch up with the money that they've sent back home. That's one of the primary reasons why immigration, especially illegal immigration, is exploding and has been for decades here in the U.S. Because people trying to immigrate here, whether legally or illegally, they know if they can get in and get some of these hard labor jobs that are slave wage jobs for U.S. citizens, but for them, and they sending their money back to wherever they call home, that money is worth 2, 3, maybe 4 times as much back at wherever they call home. So, absolutely, I'm with it. All we gotta do is just get into the U.S. Get us one of these jobs, and we're winning. That's why American citizens refuse to do these jobs, because they're paying slave wages relative to Americans who live here. Based on the cost of living here in America, you can't survive off of that. Okay? While they're doing this, paying these immigrants and illegal immigrants, and this whole satanic slavery 2.0 system is operating, at the same time, they're starving out the so-called black community. They're economically starving the black community, which is why most of us so-called black people, we have a problem with this. Again, as I said earlier, those watermelon harvesting or whatever farming jobs that are out there, they should be being paid like at least about $30 an hour. If that's what they are being paid, Americans would go out there and do those jobs. No problem. Many people. Because with those jobs at, say, at least a $30 pay wage, you can afford to live in America as a U.S. citizen. You actually might be able to save some money to help uplift yourself and your family. Okay? But they're giving that slave wage to people who don't live here, who are not U.S. citizens. They're sending that money home. And at the same time, those jobs, because they're paying slave wages, are basically not even options for so-called black people and many other people here in the U.S. Do you see that? So it's a double-edged sword. They're able to get away with continuing slavery, while at the same time keeping the underclass or most black people stuck in sheer poverty. Do you see that? Okay, let's continue. Again, instead of paying U.S. citizens a living wage, they're purposely paying the minimum wage. That's why they've kept the minimum wage where it's so low and where it is. That's why they don't want to raise the minimum wage and actually pay American citizens enough money to live here in America. Because they have trickerated, made I'm white and I say so laws that legalize paying non-U.S. citizens and bringing them in slave wages. Do you see that? Okay? Let's continue. So, with that being what's happening and what's been happening for decades, let's look at some of the cost of doing this, because all of the non-U.S. citizens or illegal immigrants, they're every day, doing everything they can, swimming, running, going underground, and whatever kind of which way they can to get into the U.S. Because, again, once they get in, if they can get in and not get caught, they can get these slave wage jobs. But there's cost to them coming in. And I got a few of them here on your screen. Y'all seen many of the recent reports. This has been going on, y'all, especially on the southern border of the United States. It's been going on for decades. But now with a lot of the craziness that's going on, Texas and Florida and what have you, they're flying non-citizens, illegal immigrants to other states like New York, California, Chicago. They're just sending them. They're just busting them out, right? And so now all of these other northern cities and whatnot, all of a sudden all these people are showing up. Now ask yourself, if a busload of non-U.S. citizens or illegal immigrants show up in pick a city, what's the first thing that should be happening? They're not U.S. citizens. Yeah. They should be taking that bus, turning it around, and driving them right back to Mexico and dropping them off there. But they are not doing that. They are housing, they're welcoming all these illegal immigrants that are not U.S. citizens. They're like, y'all, we're going to help y'all. Y'all come on here. Y'all can say, why are they helping people that are not U.S. citizens to stay here? Why? Because businesses and the governments in all these cities want in on the same slavery game that I've just previously described to you. They want in on it. Okay? They want in on it. Okay? That's why they're not sending people who are not citizens of this country back where they came from. They want the slave labor too. The tourist and hotel industries in all these cities, as well as many other sweatshop employers that we have in the U.S. They want in on the slavery. We can pay them minimum wage and they'll do all this work. Oh yeah. That's why when I trip on people that get excited about shows like the Shark Tank. That's literally what the Shark Tank is about. Finding locations for slave labor all over the world and having whatever product manufactured with slave labor somewhere else in the world, and then bringing that product back to the U.S. and selling it at extreme profits. And to the sharks, that's business. They love it. That's why they smile so much. They're practicing slavery 2.0. They're capitalizing or taking advantage of other human beings that are impoverished all over the world. And most of y'all watching that show like, oh, it's great. That's good business. No. It's satanic. And again, all the cities where these buses and planes are bringing in non-U.S. citizens, they have to provide food stamps and other assistance programs to these non-U.S. citizens that do not have a right to these assistance programs. These assistance programs are supposed to be helping U.S. citizens, taxpayers, not people. It would be no different if aliens came from Mars. If aliens came to Mars, to Chicago, they should be sending the aliens back to Mars. But no, they're going, no, you can stay here because we can pay you, slave wages, and you can do this work. As long as you agree to do this little slave work for us, you can stay. We're going to help you because we love you. That we're good Christian people. No. They are the devil incarnate. So let's look at some of the amounts of money that the cities are putting up to bring in and house and feed and help the new slave labor force that are being dropped off in these cities. At the top left of your screen in Chicago, the Chicago City Council approved $51 million. They just found $51 million somewhere out of nowhere. Use that money to help provide food and shelter and clothing for all these non-U.S. citizens who don't have a legal right to it, but they're going to provide for them anyway. Meanwhile, majority of the so-called black people in Chicago and other people that are impoverished are not getting this $51 million that they've paid taxes for. They were born here, they're U.S. citizens. This money is supposed to be going to U.S. citizens to help citizens, not non-citizens. Look at the Biden administration. The Biden administration has shelled out over $100 million to New York City to help with the surge of illegal immigrants, to help feed them and house them and clothe them and get them situated and on a path to their new slave job. Denver has spent $17 million. Just go down the headlines. Illegal immigration to cost New Yorkers $10 billion in 2023. Illinois has spent $195 million on immigrant welcoming centers. California to send $95 million to undocumented flooding victims. Why are people that are non-U.S. citizens, why are they just sitting and trying to live in California? They're not citizens. Why weren't they deported? Oh, but then the floods and all the real bad weather came there in parts of California. And now those people that didn't have nothing when they arrived, they definitely ain't got nothing again because everything got flooded out. So now Californians say, oh, don't worry about it. We got another $95 million to help get y'all, try to set y'all back up and make sure y'all got food and shelter and clothing, et cetera, et cetera. They're not citizens. Undocumented immigrants eligible for free college in Minnesota. Wait. They're not U.S. citizens, so how are they eligible for free college? That's being paid for by citizens' tax dollars. The taxes come out your check is paying for all of this. Undocumented immigrants might get $500 monthly payments in Texas. It's just going, here's $500. Matter of fact, we'll get that every month until we can get you working, starting, get you set up with your new slave jobs. Just go ahead and take this $500 a month. Plus, we're giving y'all, food stamp card for you feed all your family for the whole month. We'll give y'all somewhere free to live, no rent. So you got $500. So you got non-U.S. citizens getting all these millions of dollars worth of assistance, free housing, free food, and cash that they can sit on. If they're getting free housing, free food, free other assistance, and they're being given cash, they can just kind of save the cash that they're being given and just sit there and just let it roll in, let it stack, right? And then pretty soon they got enough to buy them a car or maybe start their own business, their own pop-up, their own pull-up business or what have you, so they can start making even more money because they're being propped up with all the free stuff by our tax dollars, and they're not even U.S. citizens. But where's black people's, so-called black people's assistance? They're doing everything to knock so-called black people off of all of the assistance programs. They're not giving this amount of assistance to actual citizens here in the U.S., let alone the reparations that are actually owed to so-called black people, foundational black Americans here in the U.S. We're demanding our reparations, what's owed to us for free labor and slave labor that we've already done over the generations. And when they say, they go, oh, well, we gotta do a study. We gotta make a committee. We gotta look in. We gotta study the study. And then I had a commission study the study that was studied, and all that. We just don't have that money. We can't afford to pay reparations. Where's all this money coming from for people that are not even citizens if we can't afford to pay for reparations? Huh? Yeah. There's some estimates here on the bottom right. Illegal immigration now costs U.S. taxpayers about $151 billion per year. That's foundational black Americans' reparations right there. Do you see that? And it's being given to people that are not even citizens. But yet, you still plan to go out and vote for one of these devils. That's your plan. You still sitting around twirling the idea, well, we got to vote for somebody. Vote for what? What are you getting? You're literally being robbed of your tax dollars. You're being denied what's already owed to you in regards to foundational black Americans and our reparations. And they're giving it to people that don't even live here, that ain't even supposed to be here. Oh, and don't forget all the billions, at this point, over $200 billion that's been given to the people in Ukraine. They're not U.S. citizens. That's our tax money being given. And look at Biden. We're gonna give all this. We don't worry about it. We gonna give you all the money we can. Don't worry about it. Y'all not citizens. We don't worry about it. Our citizens are paying. We got the law. They have to pay us taxes, so then we can do it. Their tax money, whatever we want, and this is a part of what we're doing with the tax money that they're legally required to pay. But don't get it twisted. We're helping the Ukrainians out with billions and 200 billions and counting. We're helping all the illegal immigrants out with billions, 150 billions or more. But we ain't giving them foundational black people $1. We giving them zero in regards to their reparations. And we're giving them crumbs in regards to whatever little assistance some of them may be receiving. And we're going to keep it that way. But y'all make sure y'all come out for voting, because remember, You ain't black if you don't vote for Biden. That's what he said. Yeah. Which is why all foundational black Americans should be continuing to push and demand reparations now. Cash reparations from the federal government, the banks, the colleges, corporations, the insurance companies, the businesses, all of them. Cut the check. Cash reparations. Now, we got to stop participating and benefiting, find more ways to not benefit this country. Can you say several days of say, national boycotts? Not voting? Unless they are giving us actual tangibles for our vote, not promising tangibles. No, you don't get our vote until after you've paid our reparations. Then on the next election cycle, after that, we'll vote for you to keep you in office. Not before. Yeah. Again, they still owe us our 40 acres and a mule. That's what our reparations is for. But they're giving billions for illegal immigrants and zero to foundational black Americans for our reparations. We got to do a study. Then we got to study the study. Then we got to make a committee and a commission. And the committee has got to talk to the commission. And the commission has got to talk to the committee. And then the committee's got to look at the study again. And the commission's got to look at the study. They got to do a new study because the first study wasn't right. But they just finding billions of dollars out of thin blue air to give to people that are not even citizens. Yeah. Again, y'all see the headlines. Pause the video, go through. When are y'all gonna wake up? We have to stop participating in this, in many ways, in this country. We have to stop spending our dollars with businesses that are not black owned. We got to circulate our money, like Dr. Claude Anderson says. We have to circulate our money within the black community. You need work done around your house or on your vehicle. Hire somebody black that you can pay direct cash to. Don't go to the shops. Don't go to the centers. We got to grow our own foods with our own farms and our own backyards. Sell our extra to each other. And on and on and on. Again, reparations now. Cut the check. They're cutting the check for everybody else. We have to demand it. And until we get it, we have to ensure in various different ways this country stops profiting. These states, these cities stop profiting off of our dollars. So there you have it, family. But you should know at this point how slavery never ended. I've explained it. I've broken it down to you. Y'all let me know what you think. Let's chop it up in the comments on this one. And as we do that, smash the like button if you appreciate our content here at One Brothas Mind. Share this report on all your social media with all your peoples, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us. And as a part of the new Black Media B1 choices are mandatory, and being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you and us always. Shalom.